Let's talk about a guy who, back in 1994, had a cushy, high-paying job on Wall Street, and one day, he just decided to quit. Why? To sell books online. As you can imagine, pretty much everyone thought he was completely crazy. Well, that man was Jeff Bezos, and that crazy idea, of course, became Amazon. So today, we're going to unpack 10 of the core lessons from his incredible journey of building a global empire.
But let me just ask you that straight up. Would you actually do it? Could you walk away from a safe, secure paycheck for a massive, terrifying, uncertain risk? Because that is the exact choice Bezos was staring down. And the way he answered it, well, it all came down to a really powerful mental model.
He called it the regret minimization framework, which is just a fancy way of saying he wanted to avoid future regret. It's actually a super powerful way to make huge life decisions. He literally pictured himself at 80 years old, looking back, and he asked one simple question. What am I going to regret more, trying this thing and failing, or never even trying at all? And for him, the answer was crystal clear. The pain of not pursuing this internet dream would have haunted him forever. Failing? That was okay. But regret? No way.
Now, that whole decision-making process, it really reveals a very specific kind of mindset. So for part one, let's dig into the internal tools, the mental software that Bezos used to get through the absolutely insane challenges of building something from scratch.
The number one tool? Passion. For Bezos, it was a complete and total obsession with what the internet could become. This wasn't just some passing hobby. It was the high-octane fuel that got Amazon through its absolute darkest days. I mean, think about the dot-com crash in 2000. The stock price just collapsed, falling below $10 a share. So many other internet companies just disappeared.
In this quote right here, it tells you everything you need to know about his psychology. The pressure didn't crush him. It actually energized him. He literally thrived when his back was against the wall, which is such a critical trait for any founder. It shows his passion wasn't just for the big idea, but for the fight itself.
And that leads to this other key part of his mindset, which is kind of like a paradox. He always said you have to be stubborn and flexible at the exact same time. Be totally stubborn about your big picture vision, the end goal, but be completely flexible on the details of how you actually get there. I mean, think about it. An idea is totally worthless if you give up at the first sign of trouble. But it's also doomed if you're not willing to zig and zag and adapt your tactics along the way.
So trying to hold that tension, being both stubborn and flexible, that's going to create a ton of pressure. So how did he handle all that stress? Well, he just reframed it. He started seeing stress not as a result of working hard, but as a result of not acting. When he felt stressed, he saw it as a little red flag, a signal telling him, hey, there's something you're ignoring over here. And the solution was simple. Take one small step to address it. And the stress immediately starts to go down, not because the problem is solved, but because you've taken back control. So, you've got the mindset dialed in. Now what? How do you even start? Part two is all about those critical early decisions that basically set the entire path for Amazon's future.
And one of the very first decisions you have to make is the name. Believe it or not, Amazon wasn't always Amazon. Its original name was Cadabra Inc., as in abracadabra. It sounds kind of magical, right? Well, one little phone call proved it had a fatal flaw.
So the story goes, Bezos is on the phone with his lawyer, getting all the legal paperwork sorted out for this new company. He says the name Cadabra, but, it was probably a crackly phone line.
And the lawyer misheard it as cadaver, as in a dead body. Yeah. The lawyer's shocked reaction made Bezos realize in that instant that the name was a total disaster just waiting to happen. So he pivoted almost immediately to Amazon, a name that suggested something huge, powerful, and vast.
All right, so name sorted. The next giant decision, what do you sell? With his grand vision of an everything store, why on earth did he decide to start with just books? Well, this wasn't random at all. It was an act of pure strategic genius.
See, back in 1994, there were over 3 million unique books in print. The biggest physical bookstore on the planet could maybe hold like 150,000 of them. This was the perfect way to demonstrate the killer advantage of the internet, basically infinite shelf space. Books were the absolute best product to prove that e-commerce was superior.
Now, in those really early days, orders were pouring in, and the tiny team was literally packing boxes on a hard concrete floor. One night, Bezos complained his knees were killing him and said, hey, we should buy some knee pads. But an employee named Paul just looked at him and said, Jeff, what we need are packing tables. It was such a simple, practical fix, and it instantly doubled their productivity. The lesson there was huge. Solve the real problem, not just the symptom you're feeling.
Okay, so the foundation is in place, but how did Amazon leap from being a clever little online bookstore to, well, a world-dominating force? Part 3 is all about the strategies they used out in the real world to conquer the market.
At the absolute core of everything, there is one golden rule: be customer-centric. Now, this is more than just a buzzword. For Amazon, it meant obsessively, relentlessly focusing every single decision, every dollar they spend, and every line of code they wrote on what the customer actually wants.
And for Bezos, this wasn't some vague mission statement on a wall. It meant focusing on things that he knew would always be true. He figured that 10 years from now, customers are still going to want lower prices, they're still going to want more selection, and they're still going to want faster delivery. By building the entire company around these timeless truths, he basically guaranteed that every single investment they made would keep paying off for decades.
And this gets to the real heart of what a brand is. It's not a logo. It's not a clever slogan. It is the trust that you earn by consistently, day in and day out, delivering on your promises. When Amazon tells you a package will be there tomorrow and it shows up, that builds a tiny bit of trust. That trust, earned over millions and millions of interactions, becomes your single most valuable asset.
And there's probably no better example of this customer-first thinking than one of their most game-changing moves, the Kindle. While all their competitors were trying to make a profit by selling you expensive hardware, Amazon just flipped the whole model on its head. See, they didn't really care about making money on the Kindle device itself. Their goal was to make money on what people did with the device, which was, of course, buying ebook.
It's the classic give away the razor to sell the blades model. And did it work? Oh yeah. In 2017 alone, Amazon sold over 405 million ebooks just in the United States. The strategy wasn't just a success, it was an absolute home run.
And the result of that home run was just total market capture. By 2017, Amazon had seized over 83% of the entire US ebook market. They didn't just compete in a market, they basically created it and then owned it by completely changing the rules of the game.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important lesson of all. This is the one that really transformed Amazon from a super successful niche retailer into the everything store that we know today.
So after they'd pretty much nailed books, music, and videos, Bezos sent out an email to 1,000 random customers, and he asked a simple question: what else would you like to see us sell? And the answers were all over the map. But one reply in particular just stuck with him. A customer wrote that they wished Amazon sold windshield wipers. It was such a weird random request, but it sparked this massive realization.
In that moment, he realized that Amazon's mission wasn't just to be the best online bookseller. Their mission was to use the power of the internet to offer customers a vast selection and incredible convenience for, well, anything. That one customer asking for windshield wipers basically gave him permission to dream way, way bigger, which really just leaves one final question for you. What are the limits you've placed on your own vision? And if you took them away, what could you really become?